You all remember Monroe Bergdorf, the racist that got fired from L'Oreal for being a racist? Well, the racist is back, and she's been given a platform by the BBC. You know, the same company that defended and protected a paedophile for decades and also forces you to pay a TV licence fee for their dogshit programming that you probably don't even watch. Certainly is reassuring. The BBC, one of the biggest media outlets in the whole of the UK, is now actively pushing out anti-white propaganda.
What kind of country is modern Britain?
It's the kind of country where you can get arrested for posting a tweet, get turned down for a job just because you're white, get mown down by the truck of peace, and then get called a racist if you complain about any of that. Fuck modern Britain.
No doubt it's a country that likes to think of itself as inclusive.
Think of itself as inclusive. I guess all the diversity quotas, special public programmes for minorities only, and all the special consideration given to minorities when it comes to welfare and housing simply wasn't enough for you. If all of that still doesn't please you, then it's obvious that you can't be pleased. So I don't see why we should bother trying.
But that depends where you're standing. To me, as a transgender mixed-race person, we live in a deeply racist society.
That's very true. We do live in a very racist society, with diversity quotas that discriminate against white people, hate crime laws that are actually biased in favour of minorities, and also the BBC themselves are now normalising and platforming racists like yourself, Monroe. But don't worry, you can't be racist to white people. It's not like we're human or anything.
The government's race audit for England identified discrimination against people of colour in many of our institutions.
That is extraordinarily interesting, Monroe, because I've actually read the racial disparity audit and it doesn't fucking say that at all. It does show differences in numbers between groups, but that's all it shows. All it shows is data. It doesn't at any point say the reason for this data. I think we should actually have a quick look at some of the data that was actually in the report. The social capital measure was pretty equal overall, but please notice the part that when it comes to feeling that you have any influence over the decisions made in your local area, that white people ranked the lowest. When it comes to the percentage of 5-year-olds reaching a good level of development, white British children actually ranked third. Labour market participation actually shows that white people rank at the very top. But there's many reasons that could be behind that. Maybe it's a difference in culture when it comes to work ethic. Maybe it's being able to actually speak English. Maybe it's just a difference in education or experience. Maybe it is discrimination. But we don't know that. Because all this is data. There are no reasons behind this data yet. That's something you need to research further. But Monroe obviously immediately jumped to its discrimination. Because that suits her fucking narrative. When it comes to average mean hourly gross pay, white people come third. When it comes to actually owning a house instead of renting, British white people come third again. Percentage of homeless households, that purple line up the top, is white people. Fuck me, right? Now there are some areas in the report where minorities are either under or over-represented in a negative light, so I'll grant you that. But it doesn't say that discrimination is the cause of that. There could be a multitude of reasons behind the data. At this moment we don't know, so it's not safe to just assume that it's discrimination. I advise everyone to actually read this report. I'm going to include a link to it down below. And please do read it, because obviously Monroe fucking didn't.
Ranging from the police.
Very true. Like when the police actually banned white men from attending recruitment workshops.
To the justice system.
True. For example, you can post a racist tweet and have the police completely drop the investigation against you. Unless you're white.
To schools. Does this surprise you?
Nope.
It's old news to me and almost a bad joke to identify it now.
Same.
It's something that we've known for years, but the political will has not been there to deal with it.
Diversity quotas, special consideration when it comes to housing and welfare, hate crime laws that are actually biased against white people. Political will hasn't been there. Go fuck yourself.
And I'm not sure it is now. Why should we expect anything else from a country that's built its success on the enslavement of non-white people?
Fuck your slavery. Just fuck your slavery. The people who actually did slavery are all dead. Slavery was abolished by white people hundreds of years ago, and the people who actually encouraged slavery and profited from it are all fucking dead. They're not around anymore, and I'm not about to be punished for the actions that some people did during a time when I wasn't around and I had no fucking say in it at all. I don't have any white guilt because I didn't do anything in regards to slavery, because I wasn't even around. So see your slavery argument, roll it up into a little ball and shove it up whatever the fuck you have down there. In all white countries, slavery is illegal. However, 58% of the world's modern slaves are actually in India, Pakistan, China, Uzbekistan and Bangladesh. But I don't hear you saying anything about those places. You really don't seem interested in the slavery that's actually happening now. You're only interested in the slavery that happened hundreds of years ago, done by white people, when you weren't even a fucking victim of it, and no one is alive today that actually did it. But when it comes to actual modern day non-white slave owners who still fucking exist and still have slaves, you seem to not be interested, Monroe.
It's that continuous cycle of racism that explains where we are now. Why does the UK acknowledge the sacrifice of people killed in wars, but not the spilled blood of black people?
Apparently black people just don't die in wars. Also, we have monuments all over the UK to celebrate slavery being abolished and also to remember the suffering of the slaves. So stop lying.
If the UK took our oppression seriously, then people like me who call out racism would be listened to, rather than ridiculed or threatened with death.
You're ridiculed because you're a racist, Monroe, and an extremely fucking stupid one. You are ridiculed all the time because you say fucking stupid things. If you want to stop being ridiculed, stop being so fucking stupid.
If white people want to see an improvement for people of colour, they need to understand that racism is not learned, it's inherited.
When white people are born, they're just racist by default. It's just sort of coded into their DNA. It's almost like it's their genetics, you know, they just can't help the way they are. They're just born like that. You might say that they're mentally inferior. Monroe, that is a racist statement. No matter how you fucking dress it up, that is a racist statement. And the fact that the BBC have actually put this video out there is just an example of the massive double standard that the modern media and police have. White people are born racist. Beautiful. Just beautiful. It's so inspiring. KFC and watermelon. But since all white people are so racist and oppressive, isn't it really, really strange that you're able to speak on a white-owned platform to white people, to spout racist things about white people, and tell all the white people how bad they are? And you've been given the power to do that in a white country. That's really, really strange, isn't it?
And either consciously or unconsciously passed down through privilege.
I really wish I had the privilege of being able to be paid by the BBC to be an absolute racist instead of, you know, going to jail over an edgy meme. I would love that job at the BBC. But I'd probably get rejected because I'm white. Must be all that privilege I have.
The uncomfortable truth is that the white race is the most violent and oppressive force of nature on Earth.
The white race is the most violent and oppressive force of nature. I'm flattered. But that's not quite right, is it? If you want to know all about violent and oppressive, as a trans person, why don't you go try living in the Middle East? See how that works out for you.
My worry is that whatever governments do to tinker with institutional racism, it is so ingrained in the fabric of British society that it is too late to do anything about it.
Are you sure there's anything that we can do? Because like you said yourself, we're just born racist. I mean, it's in our blood, it's in our genes. From the moment we pop out our mum's vagoo, we're just robe-wearing Klansmen saluting Hitler. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what you said earlier, so is there really anything that we can do? Maybe there is a solution to the problem that is white people. A final solution. White genocide! Fucking kill white people! Murder crackers! Hang white people from trees. All I want for Christmas is white genocide. Monroe, you are a racist, and you seek to fight discrimination with more discrimination, which in the long run will only create more discrimination. People like you are the reason we have the alt-right. You producing absolute bullshit like this only validates every point that they fucking make. I don't believe that anyone is inferior or has any inherent traits because of the colour of their skin. I don't give a fuck what colour you are, I don't give a fuck what sexual orientation you are, or your gender, or any other bullshit like that. I'm going to treat you the way I treat everyone else. Like a cunt. This isn't even me being all noble, like, oh, I don't care about your race or sexual orientation. Like, I genuinely do not fucking care. You cannot imagine how much I do not give a fuck about your race or sexual orientation. You're not fucking special. You're a pile of meat on bones just like the fucking rest of us. Stop trying to act like you should be treated any differently, be it in the positive or the negative. Just shut the fuck up, stop crying, and get on with the rest of your fucking life. What annoys me the most is you blatantly are a racist, but you just refuse to admit that you are. I would actually have a lot more respect for you if you just came out and admitted that you were a racist. But I don't think you'll ever do that, Monroe. Because I don't think you've got the balls.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube. Everybody should subscribe.
Joseph Bernstein, a BuzzFeed News reporter, has written a long-winded article which is basically a giant complaint over YouTube content and channels saying that they are fake news, conspiracy theories and misinformation. His main quarrel...
When you want to borrow money, not knowing your credit score before you apply can be a big mistake.
I want to talk about the very many genders that have been created over the last few years just to show the extent of how fucking ridiculous this has gotten. I currently have an A to Z list of genders and I got it from the Internet's Authority on Genders, Tumblr. So we know that this list is 100% correct and factual. And these obviously are all real genders. I mean, these weren't just things that were just completely made up so that people can class themselves as them so that they can feel unique and special. That obviously isn't the case here. There are a few genders on the list that I agree with though. Maybe not a few, but a couple. Also, if you expect fact-checking and research, you know me better than that by now. I'm also not going to go through the whole list because there are 111 genders on this list, so fuck that. Also, a lot of the genders are pretty much the exact same thing, just the definition's just been worded differently, so I would just be repeating myself a lot anyway. I'm just going to talk about a select few that I find particularly interesting. Now, 111 isn't how many genders there are, but I'll get to that later. A boomy gender. A gender that is profound, deep and infinite, meant to resemble when one mirror is reflecting into another mirror, creating an infinite paradox. This is the first one on the list and this is already pretentious as fuck. Whoever made that gender wears a fedora. A damus gender. A gender which refuses to be categorised, for when you want to feel extra special and unique. Affectu gender. A gender which is affected by mood swings. So when you're sad you're a guy, when you're happy you're a woman. Who would have thought that gender would be such a fickle thing that it can be influenced by what side of the bed you got up on that morning? Oh, there's no coffee left. Guess I'm a woman today. Alexi gender. A gender that is fluid between more than one gender, but the individual cannot tell what those genders are. So when you're asked what gender you are, you've invented a fancy way of saying I don't fucking know. This is a nice way of saying that you're stupid. Amica gender. A gender that changes depending on which friend you're with. So if you hang out with Dave, you're a man, but if you hang out with Steve, you're a woman. What happens if you hang out with Dave and Steve at the same time? Angenital. A desire to be without primary sexual characteristics, without necessarily being genderless. One may be both angenital and identify as any other gender alongside. So you don't want to have tits, pussy or a cock. So none of the fun stuff. Being angenital means you hate fun. Antigender. A protean gender which has the potential to be anything, but is formless and motionless, and therefore does not manifest as any particular gender. A poetic way of saying that you don't fucking know. Anxigender. A gender that is affected by anxiety. So you turn into a man or a woman when you're nervous. Abconsugender. A gender where you know what it isn't, but not what it is. The gender is hiding itself from you. Again, this is you saying that you don't know, but it's not your fault. It's your gender's fault, because it's hiding from you. Astral gender. A gender that feels connected to space. I sexually identify as space. I'm a fucking spaceship cunt. I'm in space, you fucking cunt. This next one has a trigger warning. I'm not joking, it actually says trigger warning on the list. Possible trigger warning, autigender. A gender that can only be understood in the context of being autistic. Axigender. When a person experiences two genders that sit on opposite ends of an axis, one being a gender and the other being any other gender, these genders are experienced one at a time with no overlapping and with very short transition time. Why does this sound like an exam question? Why does it sound like there's maths involved? Biogender. A gender that feels connected to nature in some way. Why does this make me feel like you identify as vegetation? Caste gender. The feeling of gender is unimportant to you. I can actually relate to that one. Call gender. The feeling of having too many genders simultaneously to describe each one. Like that little sexist race baiter Milo, whose gender changes every hour. Colour gender. A gender associated with one or more colours and the feelings, hues, emotions and or objects associated with that colour may be used like pink gender, blue gender, yellow gender. So this means that you can identify as the colours yellow and blue and so on. There are actually 10 million colours within the visible spectrum of the human eye. So that's 10 million colours, 10 million genders. So we're now at 10,111 genders so far. Demiflux. The feeling of having multiple genders, some static and some fluctuating. I can actually understand that. Your gender fluctuates. Just kind of like quantum computing. You know how standard computers send a bit of data in binary as either a 1 or a 0? With quantum computing it can actually simultaneously be a 1 or a 0 within a quantum state, actually allowing for far superior computer processing power. The only difference is that quantum computing would actually benefit mankind. Demi-vapor, term coined by cotton blossom jellyfish. You absolutely have to laugh when something as serious as a classification isn't attributed to or a scientist or a university, but to a fucking Tumblr username. Ego gender. A gender that is so personal to your experience that it can only be described as you. That has to be the ultimate end game. Your own personal gender that no one else can have, just to make you feel so unique and special. Can you imagine if that actually got applied to everyone on Earth? What's the population sitting at just now? About 7.4 billion. So that means there's 7.4 billion potential genders out there, with a new one being created every time someone is born. So that means we've got 7.4 billion ego genders, then we've got the 10 million colour genders, and the 111 from this list, and fuck that, I'm not doing fucking math. Espigender. A gender that is related to being a spirit or exists on a higher or extra dimensional plane. Does this mean that your gender's so unique that it doesn't even exist in this dimension? Or do you sexually identify as Casper the Friendly Ghost? Because Casper's all good and fun until you realise he's the ghost of a dead child. Gender blank. A gender that can only be described as a blank space. When gender is called into question, all that comes to mind is a blank space. If someone asks you a question and your mind goes blank, it means you're fucking stupid. Glass gender, a gender that is very sensitive and fragile. This is a fancy way of saying that you're a pussy. Hydrogender, a gender which shares qualities with water. My gender is cold, wet, and contains fish. I sexually identify as the Bering Strait. Perigender, identifying with a gender, but not as a gender. Surgender, having a gender that is 100% one gender, but with more of another gender added on top of that. False, because you can't get more than 100%, and this is starting to sound like math again. System gender, a gender that is the sum of all the genders within a multiple or medium system. Stop trying to get me to do fucking maths. Why is there maths involved in this? Tragender, a gender that stretches over the whole spectrum of genders. There definitely is a spectrum involved here. Vapogender, a gender that sort of feels like smoke, can be seen on a shallow level, but once you go deeper, it disappears and you are left with no gender, only tiny wisps of what you thought it was. Right, at first this one sounded cool, but then it turned into a Twilight fan fiction. Verengender, a gender that seems to shift or change the moment it is identified. You know, like the conundrum of quantum theory, where merely observing a beam of electrons can actually alter the observed reality, almost like the electrons know they're being observed. Spooky shit. I'm really, really good with physics, but I'm terrible at math, which is like being an amazing driver, but you're blind. Vengender, when two genders overlap, creating an entirely new gender, like a Venn diagram. Okay, so now we're on to graphs and charts. We've not only just been forced to do maths, but now we're on to visual methods in order to represent the variables of our findings. So this means that a combination of any two genders can create an entirely new gender. Let's have a look at where we are so far. Let's go with the assumption that no more humans will be born. So we currently have 7.4 billion people on Earth who could each have ego gender applied to them. That's the gender that's so unique and special that it can be applied only to you as an individual and no one else. Then on top of that, we have to add the 10 million different colour genders and also the 111 genders that were originally on the list. So that gives us a total of 7,410,111 genders so far. But then we have something called the Venn gender theory, which was created in 2016 by Tumblr user Fluttershy is my waifu. Probably. The Venn gender theory states that a combination of any two genders can create an entirely new gender. So let's apply the Venn gender theory to this number. So we have to use the permutation formula of r plus n minus 1 factorial over r factorial times n minus 1 factorial, n being the total number of genders that we have so far, which is 7,410,111, and r being the total number you need to create a full permutation, which in this case is 2. 2 genders, according to the Venn gender theory, is all that is required in order to create a new gender, which gives us this result. 1,322,452,379,739,361. That's how many genders there are. That's how many fucking genders there are. There are 13,922,453 times more genders than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube. Everybody should subscribe.
Live and let die. 3, 2, 1.
Now, I'm not saying that this is all call centres. This is just the experiences I've had and the observations that I have made while working in them. These are opinions, not facts. And my opinion is that call centres are fucking shit. First of all, when you start training, they make you do these gay icebreaker exercises. Who wants to stand up and tell us a bit about themselves? Who wants to play 2 truths and a lie? Who wants to split into teams and do a quiz? Who wants to... No one. No one wants to do that. The reason that they do these stupid exercises is they're actually monitoring everything about you. They're looking at the way you act, the things that you say, the way that you're dressed, all these other things. They are basically examining the quality of the new livestock. And your trainer will be this super happy, super friendly, super enthusiastic person. Hey guys, welcome to your first day. Are you excited? Are you buzzing? Are you hyped? I'm fucking hyped. Type of person who will talk about how great and fantastic the call centre is. We do fun stuff all the time. Yeah, it's great here. It's such a fantastic place to work. Fuck you. You're only happy and upbeat because you got out. You managed to get promoted to a trainer and you got off the phones. You got out. But the price that you paid for that is you now have to lie to all the new starts about how fantastic it is working there and send them into sheer misery. But it's all worth it, isn't it? Anything to get off the phones. As with any call centre, you learn about 1% of what you actually need to know in training. You only actually start to learn the job when you're out on the phones in the new hire area, which is usually called something faggy like the paddling pool or the grad bay. During the first few weeks of training, you might notice 1 or 2 of the new hires quitting. This is because they realised that they were about to start working a call centre, or they heard back from one of the other jobs that they applied for that's not a call centre and said fuck this and left. In every new hire group, the first person who quits was the smartest person in that group. Now, when in the paddling pool, you do get a lot of freedom. You have a lot of freedom to make mistakes. Basically, you're kind of allowed to fuck up without the fear of getting into trouble. A manager will place a sympathetic hand on your shoulder and say things to you like, "It's okay, we all make mistakes, everything will be fine." Then after about a month the mask falls off and you realise that this kind and sympathetic person is actually Satan. As soon as the harsh realities of the call centre start to kick in and people start getting disciplinaries for really stupid and minor things, more and more of your training group will dwindle down due to them either quitting or getting fired until all that's left is about 2 or 3 people from the original training group. Now, this small remaining group are the people that the call centre wants. They are the ones that meet their targets, they're obedient, they do exactly as they're told, but how do they do it? What's their secret? How do they cope? Fluoxetine. A call centre job is never a secure job. It is so fucking easy to get fired. There are so many rules, procedures, guidelines, targets that it's almost impossible to not fuck up and make mistakes. The reason that call centres do this is so that they have a lot of ammunition to use against people when they want to fire them. And this links with call centres' absolute abuse of the probation system. Now, when you start in a call centre, as with any job, you're on a probation period. That's standard, that's perfectly normal for every job. Call centres will tell you that it's a period so that you can adjust and train and get settled into your new career. When what it actually means is you kind of don't have a job, you're just sort of still at the stage where the call centre is going to decide whether or not to actually keep you as an employee. The problem with probation periods is you are not subject to a disciplinary procedure. You can actually be sacked at any time for any reason and without any notice whatsoever. In fact, apparently, they don't have to give you a reason. Now, if you get sacked because you're calling in and faking being sick all the time, or you're hanging up on customers, or you're turning up to work hangover and you're just basically being a dick, then yeah, you deserve to get fired. But this system is horrendously abused by call centres to the point where I have seen people getting fired for the stupidest fucking things. One girl I knew actually got fired because she added a photo to her Snapchat story that had a swear word in it. And because she was wearing her work lanyard in the photo, they said that she was misrepresenting the company and they fired her because of it. I know what really happened. She wasn't meeting her targets, she was struggling to meet them for weeks, and then as soon as that happened they went, yes, we've got something, get rid of her. One person got fired for taking time off because they needed surgery. I have also seen people getting fired for taking time off due to depression. And I have also seen a person get fired over an old photo on a fucking Bebo account 9 years ago of them smoking a joint when they were 17. They actually get fired over that. That was like a fucking decade ago. And also, I have on 2 occasions, and I can confirm this because the managers who did it told me this themselves because I used to be friends with them, that they fired people simply because they didn't like them. They even turned around and told me, like, I'm just waiting for something I can use so I can get fucking rid of them. Call centres use their minefield of procedures and targets and things like that to collect fuck-ups from all the members of staff so that they can keep it there as ammunition ready to be used whenever they want to fire them. And a lot of the times these fuck-ups are used to actually extend a member of staff's probation period, because call centres love a member of staff who's still on their probation period, because it means that they have more freedom when it comes to dictating their shifts to what department they work in, right down to firing them. The thing with probation periods is obviously you can't legally fire someone for having like a physical disability or a mental illness or anything like that, but while someone is on probation they can be fired very easily for any reason, sometimes for no reason. That's why they use the probation period. If they identify a member of staff who's going to cause problems in the long run, like taking time off due to a mental illness, they'll find any little niggly thing to try and get rid of that member of staff. They obviously won't outright say, oh, we're sacking you because you've got depression, because they'll get fucking sued into the ground if they do that. What they'll do is go, oh, they weren't meeting their targets and they were late these 2 times, just so they've got an excuse to get rid of them. Because anyone with a mental illness that's going to require time off work and not be able to give 100% while in the call centre is just a bad investment. They keep all the collection of fuck-ups and ammunition so that they can use it against members of staff, because sometimes they want rid of a member of staff but it's not something that they can really fire them over, sort of like the way they're dressed or a mental illness or anything along those lines. You can't really fire someone because of that, it will make the company look bad. So when they actually do want to get rid of someone, they have all this ammunition sitting there that they can use against them. This, coupled with the absolute abuse of the probation system, means that call centres have the power to get rid of any member of staff that they want, when they want. For reasons such as downsizing, or the manager simply not liking the person, or identifying that a member of staff is going to be a problem over a long period of time due to an illness or some other issue. So it means they can just get rid of them. Now, I totally understand businesses tracking employees when they're on the premises, tracking their work, tracking their actions at work. I totally understand that, whether it be to track performance or for security reasons. But call centres do this in a fashion that resembles fucking North Korea. Using your computer and your telephone, call centres know exactly when you logged into work, exactly when you logged out for your break, how long you were logged in for, how long you were away for your break. All of these are calculated right down to the second, and if at the end of the day any of these times don't add up, a manager will be immediately over at your desk to give you into trouble for it. I got pulled up so many times for being late back from breaks, but it wasn't like 3 minutes or 5 minutes late back, it was something fucking stupid like 15 or 30 seconds late back from my break. Most of the time I was late back due to stuff that was out with my control, but managers aren't interested in hearing that shit. Also, a lot of call centres actually have a screen recording software that records everything on your screen, where your mouse was moving, what windows you were looking at, what files you opened, things like that. Now, I totally understand why call centres do this, and they're completely within their right to do this. But the only thing that I've seen this information get used for is against staff when they want to fire them. Now, in one call centre I was in, now this is 100% true, this is completely true, and a lot of people in Scotland will probably know the one that I'm talking about. Hidden in the building somewhere is a room, and in this room is a special team whose sole job it is to track down members of staff's Facebooks, Twitters, Instagrams, any kind of social media that the staff may have. If the member of staff is called sick, they will then go onto that member of staff's social media and look for any evidence that they might be lying. Like, for example, if they phone in and say, I'm not feeling well today, but on their Instagram there's pictures of them out in the club the night before and stuff like that, and then they'll go, alright, they're just hungover. Or if someone is phoned in sick and then they start uploading pictures of themselves down at the park, then they'll go, oh well, he's fucking lying. Right, I know that there are members of staff who phone in sick and take the piss, I completely understand that. But to have your own little personal NSA is fucking ridiculous. One of my favourite parts to talk about is call centre allocated personal time or toilet time, and call centres have actually been in the papers for this. I was in a call centre that gave you a daily 5 minutes of toilet time, because if you try to go to the toilet while you're working, expect your manager to come up and give you the whole, well, why didn't you go on your break speech, like you're some kind of fucking school child. I remember I went heavily over my toilet time because I took a really big shit. It was a fucking huge shit. Like, I didn't need toilet paper, I needed a tampon damage was done. My manager approached me about being over my toilet time and I explained the situation to her. Then my manager actually said to me, in future make sure it doesn't take over 5 minutes. My manager indirectly asked me to shit faster. Remember during the interview when they told you would have all or some weekends off? Do you remember when they told you that? Because they don't. Also, if you finish at 5 PM and a call comes through at 4:59, you have to stay there and finish that call no matter how long it takes, because everyone loves unannounced and forced overtime. Oh, the last bus home is in 20 minutes. Tough shit. You do get the time back though. For example, if you are supposed to finish at 5 o'clock and you instead get kept behind until 5:30, you are owed that half hour back, so that's a half hour you can use to be off the phones. So here's what you do. You email your manager and ask your manager if you can use that half hour to finish at 4:30 on Saturday instead of 5, so you can go home early. Now, you need to send this email 4 times before your manager will reply. Your manager will deny this immediately. When they eventually do reply, you can then send back, well, when can I use this half hour? The manager will then say that they will check availability and get back to you, but they won't. So you send 4 more emails asking about your half hour until your manager finally gets back to you with a response. Either placing your half hour at some random point in the week that was totally useless and you totally didn't want to use your half hour for that, or they will try to find points of the week where you were late to work or late back from your break or anything like that, so that they can actually subtract that time off the half hour you're owed so that they can try and make it a smaller amount, or taking that 30 minutes, dividing it by 5 and then adding a whole extra 7 minutes onto your lunch breaks for the entire week. That actually happened to me. It is murder trying to get your time back, but watch what happens if you try and log out 1 minute early. Honestly, the logout button is like a dog whistle that only managers can hear. Hit that button at 4:59 instead of 5 and watch them all come running. One thing that I will always remember is one time I was getting a call graded and I worked so hard on this call. I made sure that I got everything absolutely perfect on this call. I followed the procedures precisely, I offered all the relevant products, I did everything exact and to the letter. I then had my manager tell me that because I didn't ask the customer how their day was, I failed the entire call. All of that hard work was for nothing because I didn't ask the customer how their fucking day was. Because you get graded on rapport. Building rapport with customers is actually part of your targets. So see all of this, hi, how's your day going? Are you going anywhere nice this year? Do you have any plans for the weekend? Oh, you're killing yourself, that's awesome. It's all fake. The agent doesn't give a fuck about your answers to any of these questions. The only reason that we do it is because we don't want to fail the fucking call. Because it's easier to just, for a second, act like we actually care instead of getting shit from our manager for failing another call. I also got into trouble because I was on the phone to a customer who was screaming and swearing the moment they came through to me. They were going apeshit. And I actually got into trouble because I didn't ask them if they would like to apply for a credit card. See, things like the length of the call or the customer's attitude or the customer's circumstances, these are things that you have very little control over and they can really affect your targets. So see, even if one of these things, which you really do have very little control over, affects any of your targets and you fail any of your targets because of any of these things, it's still treated like it's 100% your fault. Also, see if you call in sick, even if you have a 100% valid reason, you're not faking it, you genuinely are sick, you will still get a disciplinary. You will get one, even if you were off for a completely valid reason. They take it down the disciplinary route as a formality and they probably will extend your probation over it as well. I've been in call centres where people have been off for completely legitimate reasons. They were genuinely sick or they had problems at home and they still got their probation extended. Call centres just really don't recognise that people do actually get sick and people do have problems at home. But in call centres, instead of helping you with that, you are instead punished for it. You're punished for being human. Now, there are a lot of customers that you speak to and they are fucking lovely. They're so nice to talk to, you help them, they tell you thanks very much and then they go on about their day and you feel good inside because you helped them. But a lot of customers come through and you aren't even fucking human to them. You're just some voice on the phone that they can take their entire day out on. People who work or have worked in call centres like me, how many times have you heard someone saying, "I can hear crying coming for the toilets"? I have even actually had to hug people who were in floods of tears over something that customers said to them on the phone or due to just the sheer stress of working in a call centre. I mean, this is a place where managers are pressuring you to keep the call under a certain amount of time, to meet all your targets, to build rapport with the customer, to upsell the correct products, to pass all your calls, to not be at the toilet for so long. To be able to put up with customers and managers constantly making you feel like a worthless piece of shit every day, to the point where it can actually cause you to have a severe mental breakdown at your desk, which I've seen several times. But despite all this, you are expected to give 100% of the time, all day, every day. And if you can't do that, it's your fault. Again, I'm not saying that all call centres are like this. These are just the experiences that I've had and the ones that I've worked in. It's just a fucking horrible place to work. Nothing generates work-related stress quite like a call centre does. People are pushed to levels of extreme stress and are made to feel completely worthless, and you are shown no gratitude whatsoever. You are worth more than that. Don't work in call centres. Just don't fucking work in call centres. Also, you'll get trainers and other staff members and managers saying things say like, "Our staff turnover rate is 40%. It takes a special breed to work here." Fuck off. Your staff turnover rate is 40% because the job is fucking shit and everybody wants to leave. My green screen's fell.
Say live and let die. 3, 2, 1.
Now, I got involved in the whole poison ivy situation because it struck a chord with me. Obviously people got pissed off and raged about the whole thing, but it brought attention to a very, very serious issue, so I'm very happy about that. I'm not one for starting drama with other YouTubers over their content. I mean, anyone can post whatever content they want on their channel, that's none of my business. But when that person posts content that contains misinformation that could actually jeopardise the safety of other people, that's when I'm going to get vocal. And since the poison ivy situation lured out a lot of lunatics, I'm about to tell you about one of these lunatics. Meet Oak Dice. If you don't know who Oak Dice is, he's a YouTuber with about 30,000 subscribers, and he also has a whopping 155,000 followers on Twitter. Or, well, 12,500 real ones. Also, his Twitch channel was actually banned for viewbotting, so we can see right off the bat that he's a very honest guy. Also, everyone be prepared for Oak Dice to pull a foozy tube and try and copyright claim my video even though it's completely covered under fair use. So if you could download this video just in case he tries to pull something sketchy, that would be fantastic. So Oak Dice from nowhere came blasting into this situation like a bullshit spewing hellfire missile, not having a single clue what he was talking about. And what made that so much worse is the fact that Oak Dice argues about as well as Peaches Geldof could push a pram. So Oak Dice managed to do an interview with Hannah and Trance, and it was the biggest pile of shit that I have ever seen. This was not an interview. Oak Dice didn't ask any investigative questions, he didn't confront them about any of the evidence, he simply invited them onto his channel to fucking agree with them. But, the interview did raise a very big and important question.
Basically, Stu, are you trans?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. So I have Hannah and Trance with me right now.
And my best friend Chaz.
That's me.
Okay, beautiful. This is beautiful. So
Who the fuck is Chaz and why is he here? Why is this random wanker in the interview? What the fuck does he have to do with this? Now go and actually watch the interview, because in it, Trance Music said next to nothing. Every time Oak Dice asked Trance a question, Hannah and this other prick who should never even have been there in the first place jump in and answer the questions for him. And Oak Dice didn't find anything suspicious about that whatsoever. Oak Dice for some reason cannot understand or even grasp the concept that these two people might be lying to him. He just doesn't get that concept at all. Let me make my own scenario to sort of show how the interview actually went. So madam, has this man been hitting you? No, I haven't. I believe you. I've been Oak Dice. Tune in next week for another episode of fucking autism. He then claimed that Mars RPG completely made the entire scenario up and he only did it for money and views, and that we have no evidence whatsoever that Hannah is abusing trans.
Please forgive me. I'm sorry,
Or you could use a knife. And you want to tell the truth?
Yeah.
No.
Why not?
That's really, really bad.
Why'd you tell me to do it?
Apart from, you know, all the video evidence. But Oak Dice kept referring us to the video that Trance uploaded, you know, the one saying that this is just all a funny troll.
And I just wanted to say that all the shit on Hannah and I's Twitter is just a troll, okay? I don't actually enjoy sticking my head in toilets. And the writing of her name on my forehead was just to trigger people for fun.
I'm not fucking buying it. The reason I'm not buying it is because people who suffer from abuse will very, very often lie to protect their abuser. And I fully believe that this is what Trance is doing, because he doesn't want to lose Hannah. I mean, if a man is willing to do shit like this publicly so that he doesn't lose his girlfriend,
Please forgive me. I'm sorry,
then of course it would be easy for him to make 40 seconds of bullshit so that he doesn't lose his girlfriend. We already have video evidence that Trance will go to any length to make sure he doesn't lose Hannah. Also, Oak Dice flat out refuses to recognise the fact, not opinion, fact, that a lot of abuse victims lie to protect their abuser. Despite whatever evidence that we have given to Oak Dice, he flat out refuses to recognise this and he denies that it happens. So the idea of a debate got brought up. Mars wasn't happy to debate Oak Dice because Mars just felt that Oak Dice's arguments were complete trash and Oak Dice was just out to start shit for views. Also, English isn't Mars's first language, and sometimes when he's talking he has to pause to think of what English word he wants to use next, so during a debate that would put him at a bit of a disadvantage. I tweeted to Oak Dice over and over saying that I would be very, very happy to debate him over this situation. At first he completely avoided me, but then tweeted me back saying that it was between him and Mars. Shitebag! I tweeted at him over and over saying that we would find a neutral YouTuber to conduct the debate so that everything would be completely fair. No, Oak Dice really, really wanted to get Mars on his own and would not debate me at all. Because he knew he'd fucking lose. So what Oak Dice actually did was he hung around in Mars's Twitch stream, watching him, waiting for the right moment to pounce, and then